Greetings, Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another edition of Battle of the Debuts, where we look at two bands, put their first albums, I have my say, and then you decide which was the better. Today we're going to do a bit of early 1980s synth pop, and we're going to be looking at Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears. Two bands still going strong. Depeche Mode have got a new album coming out this year. Last year we had Tears for Fears, and we have had some good music from them over the years. So first up today are Depeche Mode. Now, they were formed in Basildon in 1980 by Martin Gore, Dave Gahan, Andy Fletcher and Vince Clarke. Sadly, Andy Fletcher is no longer with us. I mean, he died last year in May, and his news broke while we was on air doing a live stream. So it's not something you want to remember, but it was very sad. So their debut album, Speak and Spell, was released. Now, some say the 5th of October 1981, or possibly 29th of October 1981. Who knows? And it was the only album that featured Vince Clarke. So the lineup, of course, was Vince Clarke, Andy Fletcher, Dave Gahan, Martin Gore. The album was produced by Daniel Miller and the band themselves. First track on the album, New Life. That lovely start, and one of the first tracks I heard by this band, and I thought it was a very quirky little track, and I like that track. It's one of my favourite tracks by Depeche Mode, believe it or not. Sometimes I Wish I Was Dead was the next track. Now this one that is very Vince Clarke. He went off to do this stuff with, of course, with the Yazoo and Erasure. So, you know, he developed that sound. A pretty decent track. Puppets. Now, a lot of these songs on this album for me they've sound very dated now, but we've got to go back to when this come out. And that's how I'm looking at this. Nothing like when I did my album ranking of Depeche Mode. Now, I'm not very keen on this one, but when you listen to it and you go back to when this come out, it was quite pioneering, this sound. So, you know, you got to give them due. They were experimental. Boys Say Go, it doesn't matter when you listen to this, it's not a very good track. It's got a horrible drum machine on it, horrible keyboards. It's just a very bad track. Nodisco, very quirky song for the time. There was no one else doing stuff like this. That's really good for the time. What's Your Name? Another of these sort of pioneering bingity pop sounding tracks. Some great vocals on here. Photographic. Again, it's got that pioneering sort of Casio beat and the little Casios. Nothing wrong with that for the time. Tora, Tora, Tora. Again, it's just got pioneering poppy stuff for the time. Big Muff, which is an instrumental. The drum machine in it is just tinny. It needed to be a little bit more oomphy. Any Second Now, it's alright. It's solid enough. And then the best track on this album, and still one of their best songs, it's Just Can't Get Enough. Very catchy. Nothing wrong with that one. Now, what do I think on this one? Well, I listen to it now and I do say it sounds very dated and an album of the time. So let's go back and have how I sort of remember it coming out. There was a lot of this sort of sound at the time, and it was like the new thing in the new wave, and I think it was very good. You know, it's different, and they pioneered a sound. So I've got to say, as an album now, I don't particularly fond of it, but when it came out, it was pioneering. So what do the critics think? So when Speak and Spell came out, it was generally received in a positive manner. Record Mirror praised Depeche Mode's smart simplicity and noted that the album offers much to admire and a little to disappoint. Reviewer Sonny commented that the band's chief skill lies in making the art of artless, simple synthesizer melodies. Gahan's tuneful but undramatic singing and a matter-of-fact gimmick-free production will help achieve this unforced effort. As a whole, she describes it as charming, cheeky collection of compulsive dance tunes. Mike Stand of Smash Hits wrote, synthesizers and bubble butt gum go together like tinned peaches and carnation. Which is true, it's very bubblegum. So yeah, a lot of people think it was good. So the reviews for this album, AllMusic gave it a 4-star. Pitchfork gave it 7.5 out of 10. Record Mirror gave it 5 stars. Rolling Stone 2 and a bit, where they always do. But the album guide gave it 4. Smash Hits 7 out of 10. Sounds 4.5. Spin Alternative Record Guide 7 out of 10. Uncut 3 stars. And the Village Voice gave it a 3C+. How did it do? Number 10 in the UK album charts, but number 1 in the independent album charts. Didn't sell much in America, only got to 192. They weren't quite ready for it, wasn't it? Was it? Went gold in the UK, so did a lot of business, and the fans liked it. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts. Song quality. Some very good songs on here. Catchy, sung well by Dave Gahan, whatever you pronounce it. Got a very distinctive voice. You know it's a Depeche Mode song when he comes on. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Production. Very good production for the time. Groundbreaking. So I'm going to give that a 4. Reception. It did very well. The critics liked it. It did, top 10, not too bad. The Americans didn't like it, and it got in the indie charts. It was number 1. Thinking about it, it was a bit of a mixed bag, wasn't it? Really. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Cover design. I think this is a fantastic piece of artwork. I love the cover to this album. It's bright, it's bold, the colours are just right. It's a great picture. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 because it is an absolute belter of a cover. So for Speak and Spell by Depeche Mode gives us a total of 16 out of 20. Very good score. So we will move on to the second contender today, Tears for Fears. Formed in Bath by Roland Autherbal and Kirk Smith. Very successful band, of course. Brought out a new album last year, which was terrific. Thank you, Rocky. I think he agreed. So they've had a very, very successful career. Started out as a 4-piece, went down to 3, 2, 1, and back to 2. Yes. So their debut album is called The Hurtin', from 1983, 7th of March. Roland Autherbal was on the lead vocals, guitars and keyboards. Kirk Smith on the bass, keyboards and vocals. Manny Elias was the drumming and rhythm programming. Ian Stanley was on keyboards. Lots of other people appear on here. Mel Collins Yes, the saxophonist appears to play on everything. And Roland's daughter, Caroline, was the child vocal on Suffer the Children. The album was produced by Chris Hughes and Ross Callum, who actually play on here as well. Programming and jazz high dynamic toggle percussion. First track is the title track, The Hurting. Really good track. Some really good guitar work here from Roland. Very atmospheric and very good vocals. Then we get Mad World. Well, what can you say about Mad World? One of the great tracks from Tears for Fears. Love the vocals from Kurt on this. And I love the drum sound and the percussion. Very, very good. And the other fact is that the last chorus was ad-libbed at the time by Kurt. Very, very good. Then we get another great little track, Pale Shelter. Another big hit, very poppy and popular. Ideas as Opiates. Really weird and catchy and pioneering. These two never were scared to push the boundaries. Memories Fade, some interesting guitar work on this. As much as this is a new wave synth band, they still like putting the guitars in and the bass. It's a really good track. Then we get Suffer the Little Children, which was Caroline's bit when she does the vocal on it. I wonder how much he paid her. But it's a very good song. Watch Me Bleed. Now, it's one of them songs that you listen to it now and you go, wow, this you can tell this is 80s. But at the time it was very pioneering, a really good track. Change, great track, classic track from Tears for Fears. I do love the crisp guitar from Roland on that. The Prisoner, still not a very good track. It doesn't flow very well. I think they were trying different things and this one didn't work. And the last track, Start of the Breakdown, very much 1983 sound, but some good sounds and quirky little track. Now, I always thought this was a really good album as for the debut. Includes 2 great singles, not a bad listen at all, and I still listen to this today. What did the critics feel? It was mixed. Now, Smash Hits, Fred Della gave the album a positive review, and I've got to read this, and stated that there's no doubting the talent on display. And in the NME, Gavin Martin was scathing. Now I'm going to read exactly what he put. Now this is not me, this is Gavin Martin. He said, this record and others like it are terrible. Unless sort of art that makes self-pity and futility a commercial proposition, and that Tears for Fears and their listeners sound like they'd given up completely, retreating from the practical world into fantasy. What a... yeah. Music's always been a fantasy and a bit of letting off steam and idiot. What a moron. And he described the album's music as just a sort of doom-laden dross you'd expect from the lyrics, rehashed and reheated hollow doom with a bit of ultravox here, diluted Joy Division poured everywhere. Gavin, it was called music, pioneering music. What a wally. And then he goes on to say, and the title track sounded like especially like one of them old pompous outfits with a welt of mellotrons. Bartley Jane's Harvest, perchance. Whoa! I'm glad they went on and did well, because and I hope Gavin Martin realises that he made an absolute boo-boo here. In America, Dave Frickle of the Rolling Stone said that Tears for Fears stand among the current crop of identikit synth pop groups by virtue of their resourceful, stylish songwriting and fetching rhythmic sway. Granted, the adolescent angst of Bleak painted in romanticism of singer instruments of Kurt Smith and Roland Arthur sometimes come off as an adequate imitation of Joy Division. So a bit mixed, wasn't it? So AllMusic gave it 4.5 stars. The line of the best fit 8 out of 10. Mojo gave it 4. Pop Matters 8 out of 10. Q 4 stars. Record Collector 4. Record Mirror 4. Rolling Stone 3 stars. Smash Hits 8 out of 10. And Uncut 8 out of 10. I can't believe this Gavin Martin, he didn't put his up. So how did the fans take to it? Well, got to number 1 in the UK charts, got to number 73 in the US Billboard, but on the US rock album charts it got to 41. Strange. Went platinum in the UK, gold in the US of A. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts. Song quality. When you've got Kurt and Roland writing, you're going to have some great songs. They have always produced great songs. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Production. Once again, even from this first album, the production on Tears for Fears albums is always of a high quality. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Reception. Went down very well, except with Gavin Martin, who seems to be in his own sort of reality world, but everyone else liked it. It got into the top 100 in America, sold well, gold over there, which is pretty good for the time, platinum over here, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Cover design, it's very boring. I prefer the cover to the single Mad World. That would have been a better cover. So I can only give it a 3 out of 5. So for this debut album called The Hurtin' by Tears for Fears, we have a total of 15 out of 20. So again, we only have a winner because of cover design. Everything else was very, very fine. Now, both albums got to number 1. The Hunting went gold, platinum. Speak and Spell only got to gold, but it broke in America. Better than the other one. Oh God, this is hard. Both pioneering albums. I think I'm going to go with Tears for Fears on this one. I think it's just purely that I've always enjoyed the writing of Kurt and Roland, and they've sort of really developed it. But I mean, both bands went on, but I think today I will go with Tears for Fears. But what do you think? Are you in agreement with me, or you go, no, you're wrong, Depeche Mode was better? You know how you do your voting? Go in the community and just put your answers, what you think, in the comments below on whichever media you watch it. And well, as ever, I will give out the result next week. Okay, that's all for today on this one. I'll be back later with picks and mix. And this week we are taking a wander down the sidewalk, which means we're going to look at the US top 10 this day in 1972. So join me for that, and don't forget tonight, folks, It's live stream at 8 p.m. Bye for now.